Taupo District Financial Report up to the 31st of October 2014. Good afternoon, Jeanette.
Good afternoon. I think I'll just table it and answer any questions.
Sure. Okay, have we got any questions or queries of Jeanette or Alan? Councillor Body?
When we had the Treasury Management Policy during our 10-year planning, there was discussion in regards of where we do our investments in regards of the ratings, and at the time I raised this BBB+, and I note for the first time on page 7/11 that ANZ business is mentioned, and the words are used, we are exploring opportunities to reduce our exposure to this bond. Now I believe that's part of the existing policy, or to any bond. Why does it suddenly appear? What's the concerns about that particular investment?
Through the Chair, there's no concerns in regards to the investment, but to keep councillors up to date with our intention, we are looking at if the market yield on the investment gets to a break-even position to reduce that particular exposure, but it's not because we have lost faith in it. It's just that we want to explore what other opportunities we can do with the funds.
So, Your Worship, then next council meeting at the beginning of February we should have an update?
We'll give you an update each council meeting, definitely.
Just when I'm on that particular page, in regards to our portfolio performance, marginally below budget because of the Reserve Bank OCR, is that predicted to be any better or any worse?
With the low cash rates available in the market, and because of the lack of corporate paper such that we are dependent very much on what the banks are offering, we will see a fairly subdued yield on our short-term investments.
So therefore you may recommend that any interest we receive should go to debt repayments?
I'm not recommending that at all.
Okay, thank you.
If you remember, we borrowed 25 million at 4.335%, invested it at 4.69. So even though we're making 88,000 or so on that, 4.69 is not that attractive as far as an investment rate is concerned, but that's the best that we could do. That was with 25 million.
And that's noted here.
Yeah.
Councillor Krasowski.
Just a question, and it's more perhaps of an environmental one. But I see that our fees and charges for water are significantly higher than anticipated. Does that mean we're going to be running close to our water allocation towards the end of summer?
Depends on what sort of summer we have, doesn't it?
Well, I'm assuming
Dennis might like to comment on that.
The fees and charges are more related to connections and volumetric charging rather than actual use of water.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Any other questions or queries of Jeanette and Alan? Councillor
Just one
Body?
more, Your Worship, 7/13, right at the bottom. The debt equity not to exceed 15%, we're at 17.5. How long is it estimated for that to continue?
That should change in April or May when that 25 million comes off that we've pre-funded. So that's what's affecting
April,
it.
May?
Yeah, I think it's about the 26th of April or something like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Thank you, Councillor Body. Okay, thanks, Jeanette. We have a resolution there that we received the financial report.
I'll move.
Thank you, Councillor Body, seconded by Councillor Park. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Item 8, Bay of Plenty Tertiary Intention Strategy. And we have...
Yep, Samuel. I'll do this in Kerry's absence. So, councillors, you'll remember that we had a workshop on this last week with Mr Neil Barnes, who's the Deputy Chair of Waiariki, and also Greg Simmons, who's from Priority 1, who finished the project. So what we've done is we've taken the first two resolutions, which is what they recommended, And then the third resolution, we've added the feedback that you gave. So if there's any further feedback at that time, we can include it. If there's any feedback in the future, I'm sure they'll be happy to consider it. So pass over to questions.
Thank you, Mr Samuel. Councillor Krasowski?
I just have one query on the recommendation number 3. We list the major industry sectors, but I don't see anything about tourism. Can that be part of that?
Yeah, so this is 3A number 2. What that was requested, what that was saying is these were the sectors that we didn't think they had considered at the moment. So if you remember the discussion we had, particularly around the likes of hydro generation, they didn't have. I think throughout the strategy they have captured that tourism is one of the major markets for the region. But if you'd feel more comfortable popping it in, Councillor, we're happy to do that.
I think it... yeah. Would you suggest to put it in, Councillor Krasowski?
Well, I don't think it would hurt.
Yeah.
I'd rather be sure than sorry.
Sure. How do the other councillors feel about that? Happy to put that in? I think it's a good idea. Councillor Jollins?
Just through the chair, thank you. Just a question for me, whether it would be worth. We talk about ensuring engagement with some of these key sectors, but we've also got a group here called the Taupo Pathways, which is doing a lot of this work in terms of making databases of stakeholders and all that sort of thing. And I'm wondering if we should encourage some engagement between these two groups as well, whether that's appropriate for here.
Yeah, sure. So through the chair, on page 8/61, there's some specific Taupo recommendations. So it's actually recommendation number 39, and so they actually talk there about the Youth Transitions Project, which I think is their name for the Youth Pathways one, so I think they're well aware of the link there with that Pathways project.
Tourism is mentioned there as well.
Okay. Suggested resolution there, amended resolution with the word
Mr.
tourism.
Chairman, just a question, the wording, minimal costs, what's minimal costs? This thing can tend to escalate. What are we looking at?
So that question was asked of both Greg and Neil at the workshop, and they said, look, there's nothing at this point in time. I've been around long enough to know that that's often not the case, so that's why I've said minimal. I don't know what that'll be. It's cost us $2,000 so far to be involved in the project, so hopefully that gives you a quantum. Supporting this is not going to commit you to any expenditure. I can't guarantee that down the track they're going to come along and for something else.
It's not actually in the resolution, is it? No. Okay. All right. You'll keep us in touch regarding the costs then. Thanks, Mr. Samuel. Suggested resolution there, amended resolution with the word tourism change. All right. Thank you, Councillor Park. Seconded by Councillor Williamson. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against?
Can I just add one more comment? Is that, again, we are starting to see a number of these different strategies from different regions. My point that I have raised before is that no doubt we'll be starting to see that they're starting to interconnect and sort of bind together rather than be individual and sort of keep duplicating and all that sort of thing.
He's hoping. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Item 9, Traffic Bylaw 2014 adoption. Good afternoon, ladies. Jane.
Right, I'll take the report as read. However, there's just a couple of little things I want to talk about in regard to the register. The Lower Hutt City Council continues to have some issues, so we've learned a lot from them, and one of them is basically that we need to have a complete register. So to make things very easy, what we have done is basically downloaded our system, and you'll note in the paper I talk about the audit, so the staff, Claire's team will go out and audit every single sign and line on the road to make sure that what we have got in the register is actually what's out there in the real world, and they'll audit all the signs, etc., and then basically update the register. So we will come back to you with definitely a concrete register, but this is in line with the actual bylaw and some of the decisions that are coming out of Lower Hutt. So.
Cool. Thanks, Jane. Nice summer job for you, Claire, eh? Sounds good.
I've said it 12 months.
I see you out of Kinloch about 10 times, I know what's happening.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Any other questions or queries on
Jim,
this?
just on
Councillor Boddy?
9.7, as I'm on the mobility committee, we talk about mobility parking. Now, this is just the bylaw. To make the bylaw, do you consult with that group in regards of where these mobility parks should go?
Well, that was widely consulted. We did a special consultative procedure for this, and that was done in conjunction with the water supply and the dogs. So we bundled them together and we went out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other question? Councillor Krasowski?
For my benefit and forgive my ignorance, what exactly constitutes a heavy motor vehicle in a residential zone?
Again, that's stated in legislation, so it's,
It is the legislation, okay.
Holden Commodore.
Yeah,
V8 model coloured red.
Number?
Especially with black stripes.
Okay, thank you, Jane and Claire. Suggested resolution there. Could I have a mover, please, for that? Thank you, Councillor Jolland, seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Item number 10, Southwestern Bay Settlements Draft Reserve Management Plan Incorporated Society. No, the management plan, sorry. Yeah, thank you very much. So, good afternoon, Samuel. How are you? Good.
I will take it as read, but just with the addition which I talked to some of the councillors about over lunch. You will remember from the workshop which Nick we ran on my behalf a few weeks ago that we were just waiting on some historical information and archaeological information. And apologies once again that this is taking a long time to get to you. The time frames are very short, but it is really factual information. And so I tabled that, hopefully everyone should have a copy. And so perhaps if we could just amend the first resolution to ensure that that additional information is captured and so it's all part of the application. And so the plan is that we'll go out for 2 months over some periods and capture the survey makers in the area at the time, and then would come back to a committee, which hopefully you can appoint today, resolution 4, and that would be sometime March, April time.
Okay. Thanks, Hilary. Councillor Cousins?
Through the Chair, we had a discussion at our informal community board meeting yesterday. Councillor Stewart will probably jog my memory, but there's a couple of people we'd like to nominate to be on this ad hoc committee. One was Councillor Boddy and one was Councillor Hickling, because that's your forte, Councillor Hickling.
Have we been approached and asked?
Have you? No.
And is there remuneration?
No.
And Councillor Stewart and myself, and we're also seeking that
Wally Vandra.
He's going to step on from the community board.
So that's okay to have a community board member on there as well? Okay.
It's needed.
So we'll just have to make sure that he's taken, but if the community board also want to put in a submission, that Wally needs to stand aside from that submission.
Okay.
We really wanted a Māori take on it, but all the Māori on the community board didn't want to be involved because they felt it get a bit too curly for them. So.
Okay. How was everyone agreement with Councillor Cousins' suggestions here of Councillor Boddy and Williamson? Could I put it to those councillors, are you happy to be part of that? Okay, cool. All right. Any other questions of Hilary? Thanks, Hilary. So there's a suggested resolution, amended now resolution. You want to add something in, don't you? The tabled information.
It just reads approved Southwestern Bay Settlements Draft Reserve Management, including additional historical and archaeological information for consultation.
Cool. Okay, so and then a new the names for number 4 are Councillor Stewart, Cousins, Boddy, Hickling, and Community Board Member Wallace Vandera. Yeah. Wally or Wallace? Walteris. Oh, Walteris, yeah. Okay, thanks, Hilary. Could I have a mover for that resolution, please? Thank you, Councillor Johns. Seconder, please. Councillor Cousins, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thanks, Hilary. Okay, item number 11, adoption of the Class 4 Gambling and TAB Venue Policy. Mr Hadley Tattle.
Good afternoon. I'll take it as read and happy to take any questions.
Well, thanks very much, Hadley. Obviously, this has just confirmed what we did the other day.
That's right.
This is good. Any questions or queries of Hadley?
Just a very quick one. On page 11 bar 6, number 6, it states a number of gambling machines to be allowed. On 5.3 it states if two venues merge, the maximum machines to operate is 18. What say one had more machines? I just didn't follow. Maybe I'm not reading it right. So, because on 6 bar 3 it talks about merged venues operating 30. One lot says 18, and then the maximum you can have in another establishment after 2001 is 9.
Yeah, so through you, Mr Chair, there's 3 separate things there. The first one is a new venue that's established today can only operate 9 machines. For a venue that was operating on or before the 17th of October 2001, they may operate up to a maximum of 18.
Yep.
But that's not for any new venues, obviously. And then the 6.3 refers to clubs that merge. So any clubs that merge, which are distinct from any other venue, such as bars that would merge or could merge, they wouldn't be entitled to operate machines. However, if 2 clubs were to merge, then they would be entitled to operate up to 30 gaming machines.
Thank you.
But there would be a new consent as well that would have to come through council and get approval.
Okay, thanks, Hadley. Councillor Krasowski.
Thanks for that, Hadley. Just a clarification for me on 11 bar 2, the last paragraph, in particular where we say the merged venue may operate up to a maximum of 30 gaming machines. However, this could have an impact on clubs wishing to merge and was not included in the draft policy. What do you mean by that?
So, through you, Mr Chair, so at the committee that we had, you forwarded it through as chair of that committee, you suggested an amendment to the wording. What the issue was that we didn't go out for consultation to say that we would be removing that option for clubs to have up to 30 machines. So it's just a distinction in the wording between saying that they could operate up to 30 machines or they could operate 30 machines. So there's a difference between up to 30 or they could operate 30. So there was just that issue that we didn't actually go out for consultation on that difference, which would affect then, I suspect, the Clubs New Zealand submission which they made to us, because they were in agreement with the way the wording was at the time that we went out for draft consultation on that. So yeah, there's just a distinction there between the two.
So following on from that, then the resolution that is under the confidential section, we would need to readdress.
Well, the resolution is simply a recommendation to Council that you adopt the policy as per following the committee's recommendations, but the policy is now amended as per the attached copy, and that's what the Council would be adopting as the policy from today onwards.
So just to take comfort, the recommendation, which is later, can stay the same because that was the recommendation at the time.
Okay. Right.
So there's two different. The committee recommends to Council that it adopts the policy.
Understand.
Today, Council now adopts the policy, and that's today's resolution.
Great. Thank you, Hadley. Any other questions or queries of Hadley? Okay, suggested resolution there.
I'll move that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Kotowski. Seconded Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. Item number 12. Budgeted expenditure for the flood hazard plan change.
Good afternoon.
Sue and Nick.
Good afternoon. You'll remember we're formulating a plan change for flood hazards for the district plan, and you had a workshop at the end of March earlier this year. At that workshop you agreed to an independent peer review of the reports that Opus has done. There's a whole series of flood reports that look like this. We commissioned NIWA at the end of September, and they produced a draft peer review report on the methodology used by Opus here. They've raised a number of issues on the methodology. Most of those issues are due to the fact that when Opus wrote these reports, they were written for the public to read. So whilst they have methodology in them about how the flood hazards were arrived at, they don't have detailed technical methodology that scientists would use. So NIWA have raised a number of issues, most of which can be addressed by a detailed technical report being prepared by Opus, and you'll see in the report that we outline a process for that to happen on page 12 bar 3. So essentially we're seeking some additional funding to allow that process to happen.
All right, thank you, Sue. Any other questions or queries of Sue? Or Nick? Councillor Cousins?
I was thinking about this and I was thinking there seems to be some, like, fundamentally there's a few issues in there which they might have dumbed it down for public release, but they couldn't back it up, is what we're saying. They couldn't back up their methodology.
Opus can back up their methodology, and Opus and NIWA have had one meeting, but Opus has prepared their peer review report based on the information they have, and on one meeting they can't get all of that information out of Opus because there's detailed stuff about flood modelling and really quite technical information. And at some stage we are going to need a technical report. We're going through our plan change on flood hazards. We can pretty much guarantee that somewhere along that process of a plan change that's going to affect private property, people are going to want to either going to employ experts or going to want to see some very detailed technical information, and these don't contain that detailed technical information.
But then that will raise a concern that it's a flawed report that we paid for.
Maybe Nick can respond to that because he's been involved in the process for a long time.
The report's not flawed in that the issues that NIWA have identified through their peer review can be addressed by Opus. This extra work that we're talking about being done is more about getting our ducks lined up so when we go out for consultation there's a very clear story for the community to see. So at the moment we've got some technical reports from Opus, which is fairly easily digestible. We've then got a peer review from NIWA, which raises some concerns. We then want a report which sits next to that peer review from NIWA, which says, and this is how we've dealt with those issues, those concerns. So there's a comprehensive story that we can tell right from the start to the finish. This is simply a matter of when we spend this money to get this work done. We'd originally planned to do this work in the lead up to the council hearings, which would be in the 15-16 year. All we're simply saying now is let's bring that forward and do it as part of this year so that we've got that nice package, that nice story when we go out and we talk to the community about flood hazards.
It's just on that one, Mr. Chairman, what you don't want to do is go out to your community and have people concerned about the validity of the information, and you, particularly when you're dealing with perceived property values, if you're putting lines on maps. So, the information isn't wrong, but this is about finishing that process so that people have the surety that it's right. And I'd say that if you don't do it now, you're going to pay a whole lot more, both in terms of actual cost and appeals, but in time and reputation of the project. And I look at other territorial authorities around the country like Kapiti, and there are others more recently I think as well, Nick, that have got themselves into a real pickle for the want of doing this work at the front end.
Yeah, yesterday, classic example, Dominion reported that Greater Wellington Regional Council had been picked up by residents in Pinehaven and Silverstream who were concerned about the flood hazard reports that had been produced by the council and the fact that they hadn't been independently audited, they hadn't been peer reviewed. It raises questions about the credibility of that information and the reputation of the council. We as officers are recommending that you deal with those issues up front. We make sure we've got a comprehensive story and a reputable peer review, which is then responded to by our consultants.
So who will do the report?
So NIWA have done the peer review, identified some concerns. Opus will do the report in response to that and tidy everything up.
So they've done the first report, then peer reviewed, and then they do the second report for another 20k.
It's essentially them pulling together all the technical work and the methodology they've already done in the background to answer off those questions that NIWA have raised.
To put it really simply, it's about the questions have been asked, and this is Opus saying, yep, okay, and these are the answers. So it's that last step in the process.
Just my concern is we're approving 20 grand. They'll know this publicly before we, I think that's where you're coming from, is it? Yeah. Just right, we should really have it in the confidential section, really.
There's no reason that you'd be able to put it in confidential under the Local Government Official Information Meetings Act. The 20K is based on quotes from Opus of what it will cost to get there. So it's them having come to us and said this is what it's going to cost to do the work that NIWA recommends that you should do. And so that's a quote process. And yeah, there would be no grounds under the Goima that I could think of that would make it commercially sensitive or any other matter that would make it confidential.
And I would just stress, we either spend the money in this financial year or we spend it in next financial year. If we spend it next financial year, then we're going to have increased costs because we'll have to respond to issues raised by the community, because they're looking at information which is not complete, and will have reputational risk to council as well.
Okay, so this is based on a quote from Opus?
Correct.
Sorry. Councillor Park?
Yeah, just a little bugbear of mine. Is it included or exclusive of GST?
Exclusive.
Okay, I'm happy to move the resolution.
Councillor Boddy?
I'm just interested on 12(3). It says budgeted allowances were made for the year we're in now to respond to technical issues that may arise through the consultation process. Instead, this money has been used to fund the peer review by NIWA. Now, when we discussed this some months ago, I understood that Opus would undertake whatever Opus had to do, and it would be peer reviewed collectively. I didn't believe that we received a budget that wasn't inclusive of both, so hence I'm wondering how come this 20,000 has arisen. Isn't that something that was decided back when we decided the course of action we would take?
The peer review costs were incorporated in the budget for this financial year. We didn't anticipate having to have Opus respond in this fashion to the peer review. Bearing in mind that the Opus work was reviewed by Waikato Regional Council as each of the flood reports for the different rivers and the lake was produced by Opus, so over 2011-12. We thought we were in a pretty strong position in terms of the quality of the reports. The NIWA peer review was simply about making certain that that was the case. What's happened as a result is NIWA have raised some questions we didn't anticipate, and we now need to respond to those.
I'd look at it in the view of the money that you spent on the NIWA review has been worthwhile spending that money because it's picked up the issues now, which has given you an opportunity to fix it before they become issues.
So through you, Your Worship, who are the experts from the Regional Council?
They have a number of flood modellers on staff who were utilised, and they have some civil defence experts who work in the flooding area. So it was a combination of both strategy staff and modelling staff.
So, Mr Chairman, if we'd gone straight to NIWA, we wouldn't be sitting here now.
Correct. We would have spent the money earlier.
I'm just concerned, once again, it's unbudgeted money. You said if it's carried over, there'll be an additional cost. We're only talking 6 months, because remember, this place closes down for the next whatever. So we're talking early February, the next meeting.
Our advice to you would then be that you delay pre-consultation. So you essentially put the project on hold for 6 months. Our concern is if we're going out for a pre-consultation, discussing this technical information, and we've got a gap in that technical information, that we're simply going to open ourselves up to criticism.
Okay, thanks.
Can be delayed, Mr Chairman.
Yeah, well, Your Worship, I believe this is very important. I don't believe it's much point looking things retrospectively. It can get very emotional, especially as Gareth mentioned, with people's around valuations and uncertainty with sales of properties. And I think just delaying 6 months is just completely inappropriate. Let's get on with it. That's my view.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Christosky.
I totally concur with Councillor Williamson, and let's not forget what happened in Kapiti, I think it was. The cost to the ratepayer there was significantly higher than $20,000. And if memory serves me correctly, we started talking about flood and hazards back in my days, back in 2007 or whatever, and the issues that arose back then for not having followed all and dotted all the T's and I's and God knows what else were horrendous. And I think, yes, $20,000 is unbudgeted, but it's money well spent now.
Great. Councillor Stewart?
I was just going to agree with what John was saying, it's John Williamson, that we don't want to be in the position that Kapiti was in. We need to do and have all the information that we need to have, so that when we do it right.
Cool. Councillor Park moved it. I'll second it.
Further point of clarification. The only way that we could end up in the situation of Kapiti if we went out for consultation without the review being complete. If we delay it 6 months, we're not going out to consultation, therefore the Kapiti event wouldn't arise.
Okay, Councillor Cousins?
So we're not going to have NIWA come back again and say, Opus, you're going to have to refine some points here, and they're going to come back to us and ask us for more money, are they?
This money is intended to complete that loop.
Intended to complete, but they could do that.
So Opus and NIWA will sit down, if you agree to this process and this funding, they will sit down, they will resolve their issues. There will be the majority of things that Opus and NIWA will agree on. There may be a couple of things that they choose to disagree on. The important thing is that we document that and the reasons why. This is simply about documenting those discussions and the methodology and the reasons, so that there's a very clear package of information in the story.
As much as we like seeing both you and Sue, we don't want to see you here in 6 months' time asking for more money.
Yeah. Okay, so I think you've noted the concern. It's been moved and seconded, and just the around the 20k where I come from is that as long as you as officers, and no doubt you have done, is negotiated the best rate on behalf of the council. Yeah. Cool. Moved Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Krasowski. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against?
No.
Would you like that recorded, please? Councillor Body against. Only one? Yep. Cool. Okay.